podcast, radio and stuff.
Hello, Sawubona. Welcome to Podcast Radio and Stuff, the very first episode. I'm Ntobeko Khuluse.
Yeah, as a machita, there is things that we always talk about when sihlalele, sisodwa, and yeah, podcast radio and stuff is born out of that. So welcome, igama lami Ntokozos Tshapa. We're just here to talk radio and stuff.
Yeah, I love what you just said, Bab Japa. You said as a machita, masihlalele, we love to talk radio and stuff, and I think let's get to it.
Yeah.
We're doing this so we can be talking about radio, and someone is asking why are they doing this podcast? What would you say is the purpose? What would be your explanation?
For me, I love the radio a lot. I can go back emlandweni ukuthi ngaqala nini ukuthanda radio until I started working in radio. So the purpose of this podcast is to talk about radio, look at ubuhle be radio, and also look at ukuthi i-radio njengamanje ikusiphi states, you know. I-radio ikusiphi states, looking at the presenters that's on radio. I remember when I grew up, into umuntu abekade ilalele radio nobeyithatha is gospel truth.
Yes.
You know, when I say it's gospel truth, umuntu mengabe argue bevela athi lento ngizwe eradioini. Now because we is eradioini, you cannot convince them otherwise.
Yes.
You know, we just need to assess, is the radio still at that level? If it is not at that level, what can be done with it? You know, to that level. Then we say podcast radio and stuff. But there is also other topics that we are interested in. Remember, radio, it was even topics that what drive to a community, as to get a community in interest in analysis cards. You and I are radio people,
yeah.
So we've got other matters that we want to talk about apart from radio.
Yeah. I love that explanation. You know, I love the explanation labuti kona radio. Umuntu be verify nge-radio athi ngizwe radio. So mina nawe nje ushilo nje sazane back in 2008 sahlangana for meetings. Sasihlangana ngayo radio. Si join Vibe FM at the time, and we became friends, and we've been friends ever since. So, and we've got a group of friends. Esahlangana nabo nge-radio. So this would be my explanation.
Yeah.
Esahlangana nabo nge-radio. So, and as a group of friends, njalo sihlangana to drink water. We love drinking water. And,
Good water.
and
the water that you buy.
Yes. You know, we just meet and drink a lot of water.
Yes.
And eat meat. And every time when we meet, our discussions always lead to radio, without fail.
Yeah. In fact, we and the guys that we are referring to, because we worked for one radio station, and obviously some are in other radio stations, but kuba ne click kune group esagcina singahlukani nayo. We talk about radio standing.
Yes.
You know, we talk about radio standing. We talk about radio carrying that water.
Yes.
In the hand. We just talk about radio. Sometimes it's a skuzan.
Let's talk about something else now.
Yeah, because we can go on for 3 hours, which Ngowe Radio Manje is a full show.
Yes.
Just talking about radio and about different radio stations.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So and hence this podcast. And we thought, you know what, we love radio. We love talking radio. And why not talk about radio and have you watching us and be part of this discussion? So whoever is interested in radio, let discussion or le podcast we're really looking forward to them sharing their thoughts and views, and we will be sharing our thoughts. We'll be honest with our thoughts. We'll be raw with our thoughts. We not everyone will be happy with what we'll say, but we won't be malicious at the same time. So our intention, I think the intention is important.
Yes.
Our intention will always not to hurt people.
Yes.
It's just honesty,
but
sharing our
to
thoughts.
build each other.
To build each other.
Yes.
Some might not like that.
Yes.
Khona abantu abangathanda ukutshela ukuthi hey ungalungisa lapha, you know, you can do better there.
Yes. I agree with you, and in fact, we've got listeners who love radio. Some of them still listen to radio. Some are have decided not to listen to radio for whatever reason. So this is a platform for us to engage.
Yeah.
Ngezinto zomsakazo. You know, why are you no longer listening to radio? Are you still listening to radio? What do you think could be done better to keep you glued to radio? Maybe, which makes me want to ask you a question, Uti. Do you still listen to radio? I know you're coming from a radio show right now, so forget that you were broadcasting. But do you still listen to radio?
Yes, I do. 100%.
You listen to radio?
Yes.
Okay.
I listen to radio 100%. I listen more to talk radio though than music radio.
Okay.
But for work purposes, because I work for a music radio station, then I would listen to music as well.
Wow. I listen to radio.
Uh-huh.
More than anything else when it comes to a media platform. You know, I know there's TV, there's news online, but I listen to radio. I listen to radio when I'm driving most of the time. In my car, there's always a particular radio station that is there. That I've been listening to. When I get to the office, I've got a radio that I listen to the traditional way.
Yeah.
Office radio.
I
I still have that in my office. So njengoba ngi-base like KZN, kusho ukuthi lapho ngisuke ngilalela ama-radio stations like KZN.
Yes.
But also, given a cut where I want to listen to radio stations from other provinces, then on my laptop while I'm working, I'm able to go into a website of that particular radio station and I stream. But just like you, for some reason, I love talk radio more. I don't know why. Do you know why?
Yes.
Why?
It's badala. That's why. What else? Because you and I are interested. We love radio, but we also love politics at the same time. So if we go to Tadi Radio ne politiki, ulalele radio, uzwa ne politiki, we talk radio. Makes sense. Perfect combination.
Wow. Brings me to something that I'm thinking about as we're speaking about talk radio. I remember there's been some people who have been throwing ideas there and there about KZN having its own talk radio.
Yep.
Remember what's KZN I talk radio right now, apart from a community radio station that has positioned themselves as a talk radio station. Yes. La eThekwini, they drive a lot of content in talk radio, but that's not a commercial talk radio. So because you and I listen so much to talk radio, I think as we go on as a podcast, there's ezinye discuss with.
Yeah, no, ziningi izinto esizoyidiscuss about Japa. Njengoba nje ukade ungibuza nje manje uthi radio, you know, ngisayilalela izinto izinto esizoyidiscuss so banabalaleli one of the days, so, you know, bazoza la studio and we have a full discussion with them around radio. So with some radio personalities that will come here in studio and have really nice discussions with them about radio. So everything that has to do with radio, you will find it here on podcast radio and stuff. And I'm really excited about that. We do have big plans for this platform and for this, for what we just started today. So we're not going to share those big plans right now.
Yeah.
But I can say the big plans are way bigger than you and I. Way bigger than you and I.
Way big. Some of them, when I think about them, they scare me.
Yeah.
You know, I was sharing them with Ukutlwane, the guy Sebenza Naye, who's working with us behind the scenes.
Yeah.
As we were driving, I was sharing with him some of the things that we are planning, traveling out of the province to go and meet some radio personalities who are not based in the province for the sake of recording. So I was just thinking, hey, this is big. I hope Ukutlwane we are grasp it, because at this level, it might not make sense.
100%. So that's it, Bob Japa. And then we have the next section just to introduce everyone, because like we said, what we want to achieve is way bigger than us.
Yes.
100 episodes down the line, someone will be watching the podcast for the first time and will want to know us a little bit better.
Yes,
you know.
Definitely.
And we thought it probably is a good idea for us to get to know each other by asking each other some questions. You know me. I don't know what is it that you don't know about me. But it's your opportunity, sir, to ask me a couple of questions. We've got 5 minutes. After that, I'm done.
I don't know if I can ask you any questions because I know everything and I try to prepare. Last night I spoke to you and you said to me you are more prepared for this recording more than your own show. Angikhathi neboss yakho.
Sengixoshile uphelile umsebenzi.
Angikhathi neboss yakho for the radio station that you are working for right now. You know, right now, this I'm putting you in a tight corner, right? There is we radio especially we radio lady like entertainment. Kune battle enkulu between ukuthi should there be socialites, you know, the abantu laba bama content creators ekuyibona abaqashwayo, or the real presenters. Mangikhuluma nga real presenters, umuntu othanda radio wangena ku community radio waba trained and then useyakwazi ukupresent. I'm just asking you a question. When you listen to radio, do you enjoy listening to the authentic presenter, or when we ayithandela abafowethu laba bashanga ama followers amaningi?
Yeah. So that's a very good question and a difficult one. But my thoughts and views is that anyone that has love for radio, passion for radio, and talent for radio can be on radio. So whether you are a socialite or you someone from a community radio station or now a fellowship enkulu with social media, as long as you have a talent and you are able to do radio the right way. Where I do have a problem, I'm a socialite, people that get hired because they've got bigger following, but they do rubbish radio. And there I have a problem. And those are some of the people that we'll be talking about. But I won't mention them now. Too early to mention them. Okay. But yeah, those are my views. So I don't have a problem with people that have a bigger following per se. As long as most say radio we are sebenzisa leyo thuba. Radio sounds good. Everything, you know. You can tell good if someone is interested in the technique and the technicalities of a radio. But if someone is just there to gain followership and have people screaming their name, you can tell. And I do have a couple of people in my mind right now.
So now we are talking, now it's 2024. Ne? Gune radio yamanje, modern radio. Yes. We grew up slalela the likes of Sizanele Mbogazi. You know, we grew up listening to Omanda Malakwana, you know. For me, I don't like to lie. Kansas City is a bit old for me.
For
so
both of us.
Yeah, so he's a bit old for me. Angimlalilang ngaza ma clip akhe. But yena angikwazi ukuthi ngikhulume kakhulu ngoba ngimlalilang. Now also your Treasure Shabalalas on Metro FM, your Kenny Maestries and so on. So let's look at that radio, ne radio ya manje. You know, what do you think of the transformation that we see with radio? You remember, back then, radio, one of the reasons why it's called the theater of the mind, it was because remember we besingabasi yabo njengamanje ngoba sekune social media umuntu ukwazi ukushaya live mengabe esakaza, but besingabazi, but bebekwazi ukungena engqondweni yethu size siba majini. The links were longer, the intros were longer, and if you notice radio amanje, most of the radio station is musical and the links are kept short and to the point. You know, so looking at the evolution that has taken place in radio, are you happy? Yeah.
So my honest opinion, I think your radio has done very well for itself over the past couple of years. But fear with social media, Twitter, fear with my podcast, we affect radio. Not only radio, it's traditional media overall. Mabuga my newspaper, njengamanje amanye wasa exist because of fear with social media. So I think radio has a bright future, but it needs to evolve and change with time. But some of the things that have changed, for instance, njengoba ushilo ama-links ayemade,
Yeah.
ashintsha ama-links abamafishane.
Mm.
I would like to argue and say we are actually going back to a space where links are becoming longer again. And I'll tell you why. Because right now, if we go to Funuglalela or music, you have Spotify, you have YouTube Music, you know, you've got all these platforms where you can listen to music. But if I want to listen to content here radio, I turn on a radio.
Yeah.
So if there's an interesting interview, I'm not expecting you as a radio presenter to interview that person for 5 minutes and rush to play music because you want to say, let's talk more music. Speak less, say more. I think those terms were good for our days when we started radio back in 2009. Speak less, say more. But right now, people want content.
Yeah.
That's why people watch a podcast for a content.
Yes.
So if we go to having an interview, exhaust that interview. Do the best that you can do. Yes. Get what you need to get from that person, all the juices that you need to get before you play music. So I think the time of saying, just focus on your music is out. Yeah, I think your 5 minutes is over.
It's over. I need to behave, right? If we're in radio, should say, I'm just going to say,
yes, I'm saying it.
Yeah, so look for in that. No, say now put on sports.
Exactly.
So
exactly.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna look for my questions. So I have them somewhere here on my phone.
Oh, so you actually wrote questions.
I actually wrote questions for you.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought I should have done the same. Maybe I should have done the same. You know.
Some of us are more prepared than others, and that's okay. You know, it just shows who takes this more serious. So, Bab Chapa, very, very, very simple question. Who are your top 5 radio presenters of all times?
Yes, sis. I didn't know you'll ask such a question.
That's the point. You were not supposed to know.
I was not supposed to know. All right. You know why? Because they are my top 5, not anybody's top 5.
Yes.
There's more than 5, right? There is definitely more than 5. But there's Semi T, right? I don't know whether you know him, but Semi T was on Metro FM.
Yeah.
Semi in the morning. Semi T. I'm not giving them to you in a particular order, okay? I'm just giving you a top 5. So go and show Semi T is number 1
or number 1
or number 5, whatever way you choose to do it. You just ask me for my top 5. There's Linda Smia. Okay. In my top 5. Mr. Magic. I think this is my view, honest view. Anybody who wants to talk about umlando we radio, especially kusukela ngoyear 2000, coming until usuku lakhe lokugcina kwi radio station ayesebenzela Ukhozi FM uLinda Sibiya. If you choose to omit igalelo lika Linda Sibiya, you are not doing justice to radio. That's my view. No, it's my honest view. That's why we're doing a podcast. There is Glenn Lewis, right?
The teddy bear.
The teddy bear of the airwaves. There is Justice Romahlala, Just Ice.
Just Ice.
Yeah, that is my top 5. Then I'm going to throw in a female. There's Beta Churuma.
Okay.
She was doing 9 to 12 on Metro. I think she's with Radio 2000 now.
Yeah.
Actually, I called on a show last year sometime. I wanted to comment on a beautiful topic. I kuluma ngayo. There's Beta Churuma. There's more. There is even females. But as you said, you limited me to 5.
Just top 5.
And as I said, this is in no particular order, but it's just my top 5.
And it just goes to show, Babjaba, ukuthi radio rather talent like South Africa when it comes to radio.
Yeah.
Because the top 5 is a very strong top 5. Those people are very talented.
Yeah.
But if I think about some of the people that are not on the top 5 as well.
Exactly, as I say.
You know, you're thinking the likes of DJ Fresh. You're thinking Anelem Daughter. You're thinking Thibo Taj.
There's Alex Mtiani.
There's Dudu Khoza.
There's Dudu Khoza.
Makosi Khoza.
The list is just endless.
Is endless.
I didn't expect the question, but I said to you, I'll just give you 5. and it's not in any
Yeah.
particular order.
Yeah. No. Get it completely. And
Yeah.
and it just goes to show what's in talent when it comes to radio.
Yeah.
In their corner, like South Africa. Second question. So you've hosted a couple of shows while you were still with Vibe FM.
A lot,
Not just a couple.
yeah.
From a drive to
Yeah.
breakfast and other shows in between on weekends.
Yes.
Out of all the shows you've done, which show would you say you enjoyed the most and why?
All right. The show that I enjoyed the most was the first show that I did at Vibe, which was The Drive.
Okay. Fast Lane Drive.
The Fast Lane
with
Drive.
Ntokozos
That was
Tshapa.
the biggest. That was my biggest highlight.
Mm.
The show that I spent more years in, where I gained more followers, was the breakfast show. I know that.
Yeah.
That is where why am I saying The Drive? The Drive, I was still raw.
Yeah.
I was still learning things. I was still learning things. I was trying new things. I was new to radio. With breakfast, ngase ngiqala ukuyi-understand i-radio. I was more careful, selection of topics. If you go back to a Drive, I remember the first politician I interviewed was Ntokozos Tshapa, the current mayor of Ntobeko.
Oh, okay.
He was the first politician I interviewed. And I remember he was brought into studio without my knowledge. But because the station trusted me, he came in with a gentleman by the name of Majozi.
Okay.
I remember Majozi was wearing his political
Majozi, I
party's,
think, manager Ladies Speed Black Mamazo currently.
Bangena Ntokozos Tshapa. Ntokozos Tshapa in 2009, when I interviewed him, was it 2009, 2010? Sangena ngo 2009 on
Yeah.
2009, when Ntokozos Tshapa engena e studio. Angisakhumbuli kahle hle ngoba I was still young, whether he was a councillor at that time, noma waye ku youth league. But that was the year. So mengabe bengena e studio, I knew nothing about politics. Every question I asked Ntokozos Tshapa was given to me by the people who were working behind the scenes on the show. So kwakulibele kuqhamuka amaphepha kanje. And I remember being able to keep up with that when I reflect was not an easy thing. Having to ask a question in a natural way after reading it.
Yeah.
Remember we were trained ukuthi now angikwazi ukuzwakala ukuthi ngiyayifunda le question. So being given all these questions. So it was just a highlight. And I remember another interview I did on The Drive. Another gentleman wenza isport usicela ubhengwazi wangcono. I was told that I'm going to interview UVW. And UVW, why discontinue the Golf 1 shape of their vehicles?
Yes.
Why discontinue a Golf 1 shape? I remember a Golf 1 shape was more like a heritage car to VW.
Yeah.
So babelibele beyenza every year bengayishintshi shape.
Yes.
From your ngaleso sikhathi I think kwakukhona i-Velocity.
Yes.
Kwakuke kwaba khona o golfcity.com.
Yes.
So babehlezi beba nama version ahlukene. So base be discontinue ingasazoba khona i-Golf 1 shape. Then I was told ukuthi I'm going to interview this lady from VW and Umlungu. My English was not as good.
Oh.
And I planned the questions this time around. It was going to be a telephonic interview. It was one of the highlights. Talking to this person from VW or Peteleso School nationally. And it was a huge thing for me. Angiyenzanga isikhathi eside Drive, but I must say that's where you was a highlight. Mangifika kwi breakfast ayingase ngikhuze.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, thank you. I think just the last question. Would you, any plans of going back on to radio?
Talk to your boss. Talk to your boss. Let's hear.
So the application Jalale.
Talk to your boss. Yeah.
Usuyabiza njengamanje. Usubiza kakhulu. Okay, I think Chapa, let's wrap it up.
Yeah, no. So this is us, podcast radio and stuff. This is us. Just follow us. Share. Just click share. Let's talk radio. We love radio, so let's just talk radio.
100%, and like I said earlier on, radio is the future. It's not going anywhere. There are a lot of things that still need to change. It needs to evolve as times are changing. It needs to adapt to the new way of doing things. But radio is the future, so it's not going anywhere. So this will be your platform to share your views and thoughts. We'll meet again next week, same time, same place, depending on what time you're watching, where you're watching. But hey, let's catch up next week.
Thank you.